Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Special Edition. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are premiering, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of my patrons, including new Patreon, Ben White, so big shout out to you, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat F.E, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So a huge, massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, on this special edition, we are going to be joined by the Adam Meakin and Brian's Logic, who I'm going to raise the mic on in a second. They're chatting away in the background, and we're going to be going through some fraudulent claims in regards to flat Earth models. So let's raise the mic on them and see precisely what they've got to say on all of this. Hey Adam, hey Brian, and hey Arwin. How's it going?
Hi guys. Hi.
Just so you're aware, Arwin, we are recording now, just so you know.
All right.
So yeah, I've given the audience a brief heads up about fraudulent models. I've been very vague. Brian, can you tell us why we're here?
Yes. There's a guy on our opposition side called Tommy Gronfeld, TommyGronfeld, I think is how you spell his name. I came across a video which was shared to me last night that he made in recent months, and basically it's about the Blackpool photo that Ranty and Ruif and Katz brought out some while back. And he does some 3D modeling of a flat and a curved Earth. And his modeling is fraudulent, as he claims to show perspective and makes a point of doing it incorrectly for a flat Earth. And then he does some trickery with maths for the curved Earth and adds in 7/6 R, which is based on the R value. So I won't say too much more about it because Adam has a whole presentation together, but that's the basics of it. He's basically adding in, he's making up the difference of what he needs it to be. Basically, he's extracting from the heights of the observed heights of the mountains enough so when he adds 7/6 R, that they will fit, that his model will fit, his curved globe Earth model will fit the observed heights of the mountains. So that's basically what it's trickery. I'm not going to go too much into it. As I said, Adam has a whole thing together, so I don't want to ruin it.
I think that's really pertinent. You watched the video, you sent it me, and you smelt a rat. So if you want to elaborate on that a little bit, I don't think it's a bad thing, right, to be honest.
Okay. Well, what I say is what he did with the flat Earth part, with the flat Earth modeling, is what he did is he lined up all the angular sizes in a line, either side of the tower in the photo. And then he claimed he was going to add perspective. But what he did is he brought the camera closer to the tower and showed how it didn't work, as opposed to bringing the mountains back from the tower. Yes, that's it on screen there, yeah. As opposed to bringing the mountain, the parts that the angular size representations he has of the mountains, as opposed to bringing them back the way, he brought his camera closer to the tower and then said it didn't work, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do. He's supposed to be bringing those mountain depictions, or those mountain what's the word, avatars, let's call them, back the way. So he didn't. So when it came to the flat Earth modeling, he made a point of doing it incorrectly and saying, see, it doesn't work. Then when it came to the globe side, what he did is he extracted whatever amount of height. He basically brought these angular size representations of the mountains. He basically cut off the bottoms of them enough, right? Kind of stating that they went back down over the curve. He took away just enough of them, so mathematically he worked it out. So when he added 7/6R, that they would refract up, right, and match exactly what we see. Now, 7/6R is totally fraudulent for a start, because there is no R value. To have a 7/6R refraction calculation, that's totally wrong for a start. But what he did outside of that was he basically used maths to fool any amount of subscribers he has. And that's what he did. Because his angular sizes of the mountains on a globe were completely wrong. And he knew it, as far as I'm concerned. And he knew what he was doing.
That's what got me interested, Bry, and that's why I bothered. Check this, yeah. so that's kind of what he's done. To show you guys what's happened this evening. So after, and it wasn't an order, before any of you ballers try and claim anything, after Nathan's request for me to contact him, I did so. As you see here, I said, "Hi, Tommy. This looks very interesting and comprehensive. Would it be possible for you to provide your calculations and data used for your modeling, or maybe do a detailed video? Many thanks." And he's rapidly responded. We've had a little bit of discourse here. Thanks. That's the beauty of this. There's absolutely no calculations required whatsoever. I just make this one-to-one and place every object as its known place. Please remember these words. The flat Earth model is, of course, the flat Earth model is flat, of course. The globe model without atmosphere has a radius of 6371, and the model with standard refraction is 75. Something I think a point we'll come to discuss later. Then it's just a matter of comparing the models with reality and see what fits best. No magic included. And every single model I've seen, it's been quite a few, is always the globe model with standard refraction. Which I said, Tommy, a bit confused as to your explanation. No calculations. What maths did you do to place the mountains on a sphere to calculate the relative drop before applying any viewing functions? That's quite important, particularly viewing functions are supposed to be none. Again, no calculations, no maths. The location and elevation of the observer is known. The location and the elevation of the mountains are known. The location and elevation of Black Tower is known. All the distance and height are known. It's just like punching numbers into a spreadsheet, and there it is. There's no calculations of relative drop, as there's a 3D model, and every single detail comes all by itself because of just that. Just match the models to the photo. Done. Should I choose to look at it from the observer standpoint or looking at it from the side view, as in orthographic, nothing changes inside the model whatsoever. Here's a quick overview of how I did. And to be fair to him, I went and watched this, and this is where it gets quite interesting from a personal point of view, which helped me understand what he's done. This is a little, I won't link to it. It's a YouTube of what he's done, and he's using Google Sketchup, which luckily for me, Nathan, I'm quite good at, because both my downstairs extension and remodeling of all of that and my loft extension, I didn't pay an architect. I used Google Sketchup and did it all myself and submitted to the council and got approval. So I'm quite fluent in Google Sketchup, which is quite handy, because when I watched this, I said, Sketchup, any chance of the file? He says, sure, drop me an email. And he brilliantly, Tommy's done that. There is a little thing. I had to update my version of Google Sketchup because it is, like I said, it's been a while since I used it. I was on version 8 and I had to update to version 17 point something or other. So it has probably been 10 or 15 years. So as you see me operate this, as I try and demonstrate stuff, it's now through a web page. But you'll see, I can't remember half the stuff I used to be able to do. But it did enable me to do certain basic functions, which I remember, to kind of analyze what's gone off. But that's kind of the tail to that point. Does anyone want to say it where I took a slurp?
What I'd say is that I'm going to, after you show your presentation, I'm going to show some communications he had with me, and people can see what he wrote to me, and they can make their own decisions on it after that.
Okay. Well, we've still got his video up, so presumably, if I cut to my picture of a swan, just so you can get ready with whatever it is you want to present, right, Adam?
Literally was just to take a slurp of the whiskey. Now I'll flip between these, Nathan, because I kind of probably tried to make the points I want to show between his video and, like I said, Google SketchUp, which is what we've got here. Now, bear with me as I do this. So it's going to be a little slow in response to me, so you will have to bear with me because my computer struggles a little bit. I don't know why. It's struggling a little bit as it does this and works through the Hangout, I think, as it's trying to render it for you guys. So what we've got here is what the gentleman's got to do all of this video from. So let me just get rid of Flat Earth School, which we were all in earlier on. Shout out Mitchell. So what we've got here is the video that he's put together, and this is how he's, like I said, first of all, validated it here from the picture we all remember in terms of the Blackpool Swan. And the video I referenced earlier gets to this point here. So what we have here is a Google SketchUp thing. This is a kind of work myself out thing, and then use this as a reference point to pull stuff from, which is what I'd do. These three here are the ones that will be referenced to with regards to discussion. What I'll do, just go to it in Google SketchUp and show you the three. So the 3 points that he's going to discuss and use in his video are flat, obviously, radius of 6371 and radius of 7,500. These are all in kilometers, so 3959 in miles. Or I've not bothered to work that out. And it's obviously more sensible to use metric terms in something like SketchUp. So with regards to his video, that's what he's kind of done. He's taken this data, and all of this data on this side, I've yet to check it because we've only kind of looked at it tonight. So I've yet to verify everything in terms of all of this validity heights and stuff. But no reason, well, I've got every reason to doubt why that might be correct, and it's worth checking, as you'll see. But let's assume it's correct. And what he's done here is put all the peaks on here at relative height. So this is all, whichever way you twist the picture, it's all orthographic. It's just a basic representation, putting all those things on so you can see the relative heights. And he's done that, and then he's placed it on a flat Earth, and then a ball Earth curve. And as I said, the previous video shows how he attains this curvature, which there might be issues with, and there are. But that's what he's done, and then he's taken this next one, and this is probably the best point just to quickly explain and then let you guys chip in on, because conceptually this is just deranged, but actually it's very pertinent in that we've been talking about word Nathan The effectual, remember the effectual stuff we was talking about today, in terms of effectual radius?
Yes.
Effectual horizon. So this
Effective.
model here. Now, it's okay if you ask me to re-explain it in the cluster screw that I'm about to give you, but the way in which all of these geometric models have been built is flat with a radius of 6371, and then this one, which is flat with a radius of 7,500. Now, that radius of 7,500 can only be derived by looking at something and applying a horizon value which relates to a geographic ball edge, measuring that, seeing that it's disproportionate to the 6371 diameter, where it would be, say, 3 miles at 6 foot, and noticing that differential, saying that's the displacement, which I think is in West calculation, which we covered this afternoon, and it puts it about 3.2 miles. That differential of effective horizon, which means effective radius, gives you a new radius, which they're then going to use to play out in physicality to give you this model, which is their kingpin, which actually in reality doesn't match the flat Earth or their claims of the ball Earth, but is physicality played out with a radius of 7,500 because the effective radius, because of the movement of the horizon caused by 7/6R refraction, means you should be able to then model this in reality with a ball of R 7,500. I'll stop there because that's a waffle and a half, and it's not mine.
Gotcha. So they're taking something that is an effective radius based on optics, because they've had to slip it in because of the black swan, not that it calculates out, and then he's transposed that onto a physicality of 7,500 in terms of the radius applicable. Well, because it's described as an effective radius when looking at their description of a physical geometric edge refracted to a different position based on 7/6 of a radius or any derivative thereof, doesn't mean that you can then transpose that onto a physical model at radius 7,500. That's preposterous.
Not my claim.
Yeah. Yeah, he basically made a bigger radius to the globe through the use of the 7/6 calculation. Yes, that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah. What's quite useful, if you bear with me while I try and tilt this little monkey, what would be the purpose of that? Well, the purpose of that is, if you see here, the third one here, that's flat. And obviously we can see the drop, yeah, here. But look, actually this one, there is perspective in the viewing function of this. So this one is relatively lower. So at the points here where the peaks are, these points are relatively higher than the peaks on the middle map compared to the flat plane. Now,
yeah, because you don't have to. I don't know if I should be talking now.
Well, just one sec. The reason for that is you've got a bigger R value on this one than this one. Therefore, this one drops at a slower rate per kilometer than this one. So that would be the reason to then build your model with an increased R value based upon the presupposition that you can take a effective measurement and then take that effective optical measurement and then allow you to build a 3D model based on that effectiveness. That's what's happening in this third model, which I want, once we've destroyed it, and the reason I'm being so aggressive towards it is I want to remove it because I don't feel it has any validity whatsoever as a comparison to any other model, because it's based in so much presupposition, but fundamentally based in the presupposition that, as we've said, you can take an effective optical R, which you've presupposed why it's moved, and then rebuild reality based on that R that you've calculated that you know isn't the size of reality, even if you think you're on a ball, but you're going to rebuild reality based on that R. And that's the kind of point I want to just so we can remove that model. But I won't.
No, I'm content based on your explanation and your repetition of that explanation. And I don't know if Arwen or Brian have any objection. I doubt it.
Yeah, well, go on, Lara. So I talk.
Right. Well, to put it really bluntly, they flattened it up because of terrestrial refraction, basically. But they're not actually applying the optics effect. They're just doing it geometric. And that's really absurd.
Yeah. Exactly. They're increasing the physicality aspect by just increasing the radius value in physical terms. Yeah, happy to discount it further to this discussion. Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, I cut in on you there. I thought you were after finishing. Yeah, well, what I said was that he cut off just enough of the bottoms. Like my claim about him was that he was cutting off just enough of the bottoms of the mountains. So when there is an adding of 7/6R, that they would match perfectly, because that's the way he spoke about it. Because even in his 6,371 kilometer radius model, I know from his angular sizes that they're bigger than they should be. And when I even said it to him, which I can show in the comments in a while, he denied that he did anything wrong. So he was starting off with a fraudulent size, even with their correct radius size. So when he created this new physical world with a whole new 7,500 kilometer radius, when he created that, he already had angular sizes that were bigger than the actual angular sizes on their globe, what they would be. So by just adding 7/6R, he worked it out. So it's not that he just made a bigger radius in the 7/6R model. He made sure before he even went to there that his angular sizes of his mountains on his globe model with the correct in the 3959 radius were bigger than they should be. So when he did add 7/6R, they would fit almost exactly perfect. And he looks like he's doing great work. He's an absolute fraud.
Okay, we're all in agreement. Adam, do you want to continue?
Yeah, cool. So probably the next point I want to raise is, as you see here, you can see this big white blob. That did not exist before. I built that in for purpose, which was analytical. So if I can just change the view a little bit. Okay. This way will do, that's fine. Okay, so what you'll see, excuse me 1 second.
I assume this is Adam clearing his throat, so I've muted that line temporarily.
What I was just disrupted by bloody Riley ringing me. That's why
it just rang me as well. Yeah, pain in the ass.
Right. So the purpose of these lines, as you'll see, and I'm drawing them in, and they're on the grid, the XYZ grid within program, was to have a little look about how the mountains have been placed. Because think about it, how the mountains are placed will be very different in terms of distance from the observer, and how far that in terms of a straight line vector to the supposed peak will be. Now, the way in which the distance to the mountain is expressed is surface distance covered, which on a flat plane has no differential, but on a curved surface it does, in terms of as you travel this distance, some of the distance that you're traveling is down in terms of as a description, as a vector, and And that's why I put these lines in, because if these peaks were placed commensurate with surface distance, and remember this one curves down. So at this point here, where you can see this line or the big white line, the distance and the amount of surface distance for this one is greater than this one, yeah, to the same point of the white line. So I kind of drew that in, and I won't bore you with the details, but what I did was measure the distance between these peaks here and see if they were the same on all three models, and they are. I won't bore you with the details. If somebody would like to refute that, I'll take it back if they can demonstrate it. But from my measurements within the model, they are all the same. So that means the way in which they've been placed upon the model is a top perspective, only taking into account the distance from the observer to along this axis, yeah, which isn't the surface for these two models, but it is for this. It's the same thing along here. So they've been misplaced in models B and C, we'll call them. I'll stop there. Does that point make sense?
Yeah, you're going to increase the distance. It's the same point that Brian's been making recently with the sextant. If you draw a chord and then put a GP position down, when you then increase the surface area by curving the land up to match with the original presupposition of a sphere, you have a longer distance. This is no different. You're saying that when you curve the surface, you've not only got the outward distance that you're measuring, you've also got the downward distance, which increases the overall distance. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. So, guys, if you want to just fill in, I just want to get rid of this white bit just for 1 second so we can cover some other points.
So just while you're doing that, Brian, you went on gut instinct that something wasn't right, something was awry. So far, are you following along and going, yes, this matches with what I thought was incorrect?
Yeah, it is. Like I knew that there was tomfoolery at play. I was a bit triggered when I saw it. I was annoyed at the guy because I knew he was a fraud. I've known this guy is a fraud for a long time, and I was only waiting for him to come across my desk. He's never really had any interactions with me, and I've listened to him debate different people like Flatside, and I've listened to him on Rantys and stuff like that when Ranty was a good guy. But what he's doing here, basically, is that he's doing the same thing. He's creating an arc which changes the distance. He's creating an arc which is by adding in his R value, which is changing the distance. It's trickery. It's trickery and it's fraudulent what he's doing. I'm not surprised with any of it. Basically, my first instinct was that the first thing I saw was that when he claimed he was using perspective for the flat earth, what he did was completely fraudulent. The way it was total wizardry. And then when I saw his angular size was completely wrong for Delfell, I didn't even have to look at anything else. And then I knew, like I said, hang on, I bet you 7/6 is coming up here, and that's exactly what came up. I didn't need to look at anything else. I said, I sent him a few messages. I wasn't very nice about it, but he doesn't deserve any nice off of anyone with his behaviour.
Okay, Adam, are you happy? You all lined up?
I am. Arwen and Eli's just joined us, so maybe a quick catch up before for Eli if needed, and Arwen if you've got any questions, and then I'm going to move on to a probably more familiar point before.
No questions, no.
Hey, Eli, do you need a summary, or are you happy to just let us carry on and you'll get into the swing of it?
You guys carry on. I have a lot of noise in my background. I'm at work. That's why I'm on mute. But I'm listening.
Okie dokie. Carry on, Adam.
Okay. This is really more a point of something I've had a chance to ponder on. Article in Nature, fundamentally. But if you look at the three pictures that are lined up in the three different models, all three of them are lined up at the top, which I've checked. They are in a straight line across the top. Now, because of the nature of the surface that's represented underneath them, look, they all drop at a different point, don't they? Yeah. Now,
hold on. Sorry, let me just check I'm following you, because I don't think I am. Are you saying that these backdrop pictures are all lined up on the same, which axis would it be? The vertical axis?
Yeah, on the y-axis, they have the same height in terms of in the 3D model. Yeah, across this line here. Yeah.
Okay.
If this is the y-axis,
that's the x-axis. I think, Adam, is it?
What? No, the x-axis would.
It's not. No worry. Let's not nitpick. All I'm asking is, all of the pictures are at the same height in terms of their how high or low, how up or down they are in the frame of this picture.
Yeah, but they're in the exact same position of alignment. Now, the thing that varies in the image is in this one, it's straight from the point of the observer. So the ground in this comparative image is below the observer's feet in this image, in the way the modeler has set it up. In this one, you'll see, because of the way the ground curves away, because of the R value, and the 6371 R value, it curves away and it exposes a little bit more of the picture. In this one, because we've got a, 7,500 value, it actually sits in between the two. It'd have been nice if you'd have put this one in the middle for this purpose, but can you see? So the way in which the picture of reality intersects with the model in terms of where the modeler has placed this picture to, I don't know, compare to reality, shows that in his flat Earth model, it doesn't comport to reality because the Earth is above the grass under his feet, look. In this one, it fits a little bit better because the way he's positioned the picture for everybody allows for curvature to be the explanation for the opening up of the picture. And in this one, it's slightly reduced because he's tried to flatten it out to make explanations for what he sees in the picture. I just want that point noted in terms of, but more fundamentally,
Sure. Well,
what's
that
the
was
picture doing?
I was going to say that's the original point that was the original point that Brian actually raised, right? That was what he noticed. Am I correct, Brian?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't obviously have this walk around, but I did notice that basically he was taking from a basic observer point of view on his video, taking just the right amount of mountain away from the bottom of the mountains, so that in his 7/6R version, it would fit just perfect. So he, like as Adam is showing here,
Brian, that's the Cumbrov.
Okay.
You see this bit at the back?
Yeah.
There's the fraud in that. Don't worry about this. Just stay on topic with these because these are just subtle points I want you to notice. But what you felt and your gut instinct, I think I've detected, and that's the crescendo. But if we can just.
I see what you're saying, though, Adam.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. That the flat Earth model here is showing that basically he has it down. He has it so along the flat ground, it ends up being basically at the bottom of the roller coaster in Blackpool. He's taken away all the land underneath that and before that, and then in the second one, which is the 3959 radius, he has then added in more ground. But then in the third one, he seems to, am I correct? He seems to have had to stretch it out laterally or something.
No, he's allowed for the full image to be presented on his 7,500 radius. It's the full image that you see at the end of the runway, if you will. In the middle image, which is 3959 radius, it's slightly cut off. And on the flat Earth one, you can see it poking out at the bottom. I'll show you with my mouse on my screen for the audience. This bit's poking out the bottom much more, so he's just cut off a lot more of the image in the flat Earth one.
Yeah, can I make an observation?
I think did he not stretch out the third one left to right a little bit as well?
I think they're all the same.
Sorry, maybe it's just the way I'm viewing it. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I think they're all the same. You can, but I think it's Adam. You said it was the crescendo, Adam. Do you mean to that particular part, or?
No, I'm asking Brian to stay away from his gut instinct. That I'll come to that bit at the end. These parts don't relate to that, Brian. These are other anomalies, misplacements, and in the point in terms of sticking a photograph in the middle of at the back end of a 3D rendering, you know, when this thing first came out and we took the mick about RUIF, kind of sticking rulers on photographs. This is like that on steroids, okay? Because just to look at the image we've got here and what you're asking to be a reasonable way of evaluating reality is we have a flat Earth model where we've carefully placed all of the mountains and their relative peak heights on a model. And then we've done the same here on a ball Earth, and we've done exactly the same with the critique that I've already applied, and we've done so to 3D render it. And then to prove that it's on a ball, we've stuck a photograph in the most obscure positions to be able to validate these peak heights. And this is the whole premise of his video, that this is the point of comparison that he uses to validate the ball. That once you've done this 3D rendering, you stick a photograph that you've taken behind it, compare these things, and we'll come to what he's comparing, and because it's not comparative, but you compare these things, these tops of these bars and these tops of these the mountains on this picture, and one way or the other, whichever is the most commensurate with each other, that'll prove the nature of the Earth. That's kind of the fundamental principle of what's being described here. Outside of the cheating I'll describe later, but that's kind of what I want you guys to grasp now. This is what's being supposed to us to allow them to draw their conclusions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can I make an observation?
Yeah, go ahead, Darwin.
Yeah, what I think you're basically trying to explain, and didn't catch me at first, is that this is basically a 3D geometric intersection with a 2D representation of an optics-based observation. And so the geometric horizon is pretty much arbitrarily assigned within the picture with the flat Earth observation. And then echoed with the supposed globe Earth side. But it's arbitrary. They just decided this is where the horizon is. And these are two different types of things. One's optics based, the other is geometric. So that stood out to me.
Do you know what highlights that? The fact that I thought Adam was doing something, I don't know if he was now, but I thought he was trying to match it up with the program's horizon in the background for a second. I thought that's what you were doing.
Well, this kind of highlights the point of the retardedness of what's going off here in this comparative use of a photograph and 3D modeling. Now, in the photograph now where I've repositioned it, you see this grassy looking stuff? Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that at the same height as the observer's feet, roughly? Yeah, well, that's below. The observer stood a bit higher than that, I think, and that is actually slightly below these feet. Let me ask another question then. Is this grassy bit at the foreground of this image the same height, if I was to represent it in the 3D image, as this bit of water here?
I mean, you're taking his ludicrous way of modelling it and asking questions within this ludicrous way of modelling it. But I see.
I'm nearly there at the exemplar. It's literally about the position. So if we can agree that actually, in terms of the 3D model that we're going to put this photograph on, that here is the same height as at the bottom here, yeah, then all of this bit of the photograph and all the way up to the bay should be on the same level. Yet for some reason, look, it's positioned at this height. Now, on the flat Earth model, surely it should be positioned there, because we know you're going to put a photograph on, you've got to at least put your 0 degree point at the same point. And we know the bottom of this, where this reed is touching the water, is the same height as this bit of water here. And we know it's the same height as this bit of water here on the flat Earth model. Not asking for ball apologetics. Yet our picture has been pasted all the way down here. That's not correct mathematics, is it? I mean, it's nonsense anyway, because you can't. But that's the point. You can't put a picture on here. At which point do you draw your arbitrary line to say your picture is 0? All of that is 0. All of this bit along here is 0. I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't have that to say anything, I might say something.
Well, I've got my roundup point to make about where they get the R value, but we might be leaving that to the end. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, I was just going to say that the very first thing, without even seeing the video, I knew what was after happening. He was after modeling it in such a way that it was going to be impossible for the photograph to work on a flat plane, which means that he was not being honest in any way, shape, or form. From the get-go, I knew when I saw it exactly what it was. I knew who the guy was, I knew what I was dealing with, and I knew what the whole point of what he was doing was. He was making it impossible through 3D modeling, through 3D modeling manipulation. Let's be honest about what really he did. Made it impossible for it to work on flat Earth. And more than that, though, even when it came to the time of actually adding in perspective, he even still had to bring the camera towards the tower as opposed to bring the mountains back from the tower. Because even if he'd done that, it would have disproved him. Even with all his manipulation and all his trickery and wizardry, if he had just brought the mountains back from the tower, it wasn't going to work for him, because it was going to show visual occultation because of angles. So he ended up bringing the camera closer to the tower and saying, see, it doesn't work, and just moving on. You know, so even with all his manipulation, he still would have debunked himself by moving just the mountains back the way. You know, the guy is, the whole video, it's just, this is what we're getting from their side. Fraud. That's all they've got is fraud. I'm done. Thanks.
We've got Mitchell here as well. We haven't said hello to yet. Hey, Mitchell.
Hey guys, how are you? Just listening in. Good stuff.
Hey, Richard.
Hey,
Brian.
You all right, bro?
You.
Anybody else got any comment? As I think
I've got.
Adam's
I
got.
have the crescendo, Nathan.
Perfect. Anybody got any comment before Adam finalizes this?
Yeah, the horizon is sticking out a lot with the ball model there, according to the picture. Just saying.
That's quite interesting. The way I've lined it up there, Arwin, in this 3D modelling and placed a 2D photograph on, and you see that line, that dotted line that heads over Blackpool Tower. That's a perspective line in the 3D model. Look how it represents itself on the photograph. It's ridiculous. That exemplifies what he's trying to do.
I don't understand what you mean. I do, but I want you to dumb it down.
Okay. So just in the crude place that I've captured this to make a completely separate point, there are certain lines that I've drawn on here which go off to infinity. That dotted one that goes over Blackpool Tower on the left is a dot off, perspective-wise, off in terms of the 3D modelling for you to understand, off to infinity. Now, if you look at that perspective line, what relationship does it have in this 2D image on my computer screen to the 2D image on the photo. Has nothing. The two have no bearing to each other. One is a line of perspective on a 3D computer image, and the way it intersects that 2D image within the 3D model makes it look like it's going down. It's not. It's just perspective in the 2D way it's rendered it. Yeah, it isn't. The only point it intersects isn't. All it's showing you is there's one. I don't want to twist this picture, but there's one fine area, maybe say here, where I've put my tape measure, where it goes through this 2D image. But the way in which the computer's rendering it for me makes it look like there's a dotted perspective line, which makes no sense on the photograph, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. When you try and put a 2D image into a perspective-exclusive Muppet Vision 3D rendering, Arwin summarised it better than I did earlier, but it suddenly looks really weird. And yeah, you've got this strange line going at a weird angle through the image, the 2D image, the picture rather, that just doesn't make any sense when you match it up with 3D rendering. Well, why? Well, because it's a 3D rendering of a Muppet Vision interpretation mathematically.
Right, nice. Let me get my tape measure out. Twist it a little bit. What I've done here, you can see that I've put the picture back because it's kind of irrelevant now to this next point. But we've got the two on the right-hand side. We have the supposed flat Earth model, and on the left-hand side, the supposed ball Earth model. Oh, one last little bit, because when I was chatting with the guys earlier, Mitchell was in earlier. The curvature has been expressed along this line, okay? Along this line only, okay? You'll notice that the picture is straight across this line. Nowhere in the modeling is there any curvature expressed across the picture. That's why it fits quite nice, because this is straight and this is straight. But actually, technically, this green blob here should curve at the same rate as this, which should be insignificant, frankly, because the bit we're looking at is up here and it's curvature, but that's not been included in the model, is the point I'd just like to make on that.
Well,
Okay.
that would make little changes. Sorry, Nathan, go on.
Yeah.
Well, no,
it's
worth considering.
Here, Bri, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, will I go, Nathan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, at your finality, that would make little small changes to his angular size mounting pieces. If there is a small bit of curvature, it will make small little changes. It won't all line up perfect for him, because no matter if he's using the same curve, then the middle of the photograph is going to have to be slightly above the two edges at the side, the left and the right. So that's going to make small little changes for him in the end if he does that.
If you want to turn a curved surface into a flat surface, Brian, and kudos to the bit I'm going to say next that you spotted, small little changes make a difference. And if you can get a number of small little changes with whether they're real reasons or baller reasons, they all add up. You haven't got to get the cumulative drop accounted for in a ball earther's mind in one go. Yeah, it's going to be obviously fallacious. Yeah, but if you can do it with lots of if, buts, and maybes, often over this distance, you can, and what we're talking about here is basically, I think it's about 111 kilometers, which is basically close to a kilometer drop. We'll go into the details in a bit. If you think about it, for lots of little reasons, you can account for that kilometer drop and get it to this, and this. Suddenly, the two claims sit with the same plausibility if you accept the little chips away that they make. And that's just one of them. You get me? It's the way of, again, another way of, like by adjusting the R value and the third model to make it flatter, That's what they do. It's another way of chipping away at the insurmountable cumulative curvature that they have to do over distance viewing that destroys their model.
Yeah,
I get it.
I understand.
What
Yeah,
what is chipping away at me, if I may say, is just how much that horizon in the second picture of the supposed globe is sticking out above the geometric horizon. That's just like that's cognitive dissonance in plain sight.
That the right-hand model, which is the flat Earth one, is rendering you something, look, that is obviously denying the reality of what was the picture that was taken. For them to put the picture in where it is to comport to their model, it has to be there so that half of the grass is under the surface of the Earth. And well, maybe I should measure that. Let me just see how far they have placed the human. There's the surface of the Earth. And so they're saying that the feet under the observer's ground is 1,942 meters, just short of 2 kilometers. That grass in their model is 2 kilometers below the surface of the water, yeah, on the flat Earth model. This isn't ball apologetics. This is how they've rendered our flat Earth model, straw man, for us. Oh, very kind. That was, I think, very important later when they try to claim that the mountains should be a lot higher, and in reality they're not. With the picture. Oh, no, sorry.
No, I think it's amazing how much they must fudge reality. It just beggars belief. And why have they had to fudge it? Well, because they're going to line it up with two models that, like you describe, having little bits chipped away. It's like, well, if you can excuse the fact that they're not as high as they perhaps should be, if you can perhaps increase the rate of curvature by increasing the radius value, if you can take all of these apologetics into consideration and then ignore the fact that I've sunk the flat Earth model right down into the ground by 2K, then it all kind of lines up nicely, doesn't it? They all kind of seem plausible. Now, the problem is that while we're pulling this apart with the access to the 3D model, that's not how it's presented in the video. Far from it. You know, it's just presented with the cherry-picked information that needs to be shown to the audience with the assertions made next to them, which is what's pissed Brian off so much.
Yeah, fraud.
Okay. Is there anything else, Adam?
Yeah, I went sidetracked there. Let me just line this up. And this, I suppose. Brian, maybe do you just want to reiterate what your gut feeling was while I do it?
My gut feeling was that he chopped off just enough of the bottom of the angular size of the angular sizes of the mountains were all on a flat plane. So he just took those angular sizes and he chopped off just mathematically just enough of them, of the bottoms of them, so that when he added 7/6 or later on, that they would fit the photograph almost perfectly as far as height goes, in comparison to the tower. That was my gut instinct of what he was out there doing.
Right. So I did all of this stuff in mind, and then your little niggle was there. I thought what I'd do is just check out his model with a little bit of simple math. Like I said, you've seen those 4 columns, and they're all, when I took this tape measure to them, and I'm not going to do it now because I'll have to realign it, but they were 1174.46 meters in length, which is 111.17446 kilometers. Now, no adjustment needed. Where the height of this one will be relative to this one will be a 0 degree change. what I wanted to check was where this one was at the end of this column.
Sorry, can you be a bit more specific? This one isn't enough for...
Okay,
that's
so
not done
what I
down
wanted to
enough.
check was the accuracy of the curvature that have been created with regards to the ball earth model of a radius 6371. So I applied just a little bit of curvature maths. And again, we said earlier about, just a second, about little bits make a difference. So this is the difference between my accurate, if your radius is 6371 maths, and 8 inches per mile. And it all helps. So if you use 8 inches per mile, that's it works out at 967 meters is the drop between the top of the ground here at the end of this column, and the ground here at the end of this column. And that's why I've drawn these boxes on. Look, one box there to extend here and one that. So what I'm going to do is measure here, this intersection here, that difference. That difference should be the same as the drop rate, shouldn't it, over the applied distance of 111.17446 kilometers. Correct? If the distance and the curvature match to each other, then now the computer will agree with me because I've used complex trig to derive my formula, not an approximation, 8 inches. Do we agree?
Yeah, it should match.
Yeah, carry on, Adam.
Okay. In terms of 8 inches per mile, they come out with 9.
1 second, Adam. Mitchell, your camera is on. Just want to let Mitchell know that. Sorry.
In terms of 8 inches per mile, like I said, it's 967 meters. In terms of accurate trig, it's 969 meters, another 2 meters. There's 6 foot. Right, they've just gained or saved curvature in terms of the approximate calculations, which is lovely. But that isn't what I want to measure. What I want to measure is from here to here to see that it comports with ball math. So if I take this distance here, and what it should measure to is, what did I say? 969 meters, shouldn't it? $889 meters. That's another saving of drop in this model. So my accusation here is this model is inaccurate. You have shaved off at the end of these columns 79.78 meters, a further 80 meters of supposed obstruction that should be occurring by your ball earth curvature. It's another 80 meters that you've shaved off by mismodeling in favor of a ball.
I can't remember the original number now. You've got on screen 88950. I've forgotten the original number now.
The drop should be 969 meters. That means it's not dropped by the 969 meters it should do based on ball mathematics. It's only dropped by 889, which means they've ignored a further 79.78 meters, which is probably, what's that, times 3, another 200 foot or more of curvature that they've magically lost.
It's like 8% off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Total sense.
So your gut was right, Brian.
Thank you, Adam. But besides, let's start from the start. He started with angular sizes that were off of the flat plane, right? So he starts with an angular size of, let's say, the F.E. He then stretches out the distance, but it stretches out the distance between him or the observer and the mountains. And he doesn't drop he doesn't do the correct angular size change calculations for a globe. He just uses flat out angular size change calculations. And he drops them just enough, but not too much, for his globe by basically shaving off the end of them, but not doing it to the amount he should do. So that when he adds in 7/6R, he's making a bigger radius, which is flattening his Earth out, which making it, and also making it bigger. But he's then rising them back up by adding this bigger radius with the 7,500 meter radius, and making the tops of his mountain pieces fit the observed mountains. It's fraudulent as much as you could be. I mean, if this was a court case, it would be over, if you know what I mean. You couldn't do more fraud, as far as I'd be concerned. I don't know what else you could do to be more fraudulent than this.
I said this on
I do have one more bit of fraud to expose, but give me 5.
What, just before you do, I was going to say, I mentioned this on the live show, the extent that he's had to go to perpetrate this means that you can't be unaware of what you're perpetrating whilst doing this. Anyway, we'll discuss that after. Adam, do you want to continue?
The last and final point really is a simple point. What you'll see him do is get down to this point now. This is where I'm a bit ropey on my use of or functions have changed, but just bear with me. I want to get down to ground level. We can see how big the numbers are. Look, I'm going to put a little man, and that man's to scale to this model, I think, roughly.
Have you put him down? Because if you have, I can't see him.
He's down. If you see the model's changing now. So now what we're seeing now, you see that little grey block that I put the man on? Yeah.
Hold on. Is it just me? I can't see a man. What man?
There is no man. You are the man in terms of your viewpoint.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
You're now a man stood on the ground 6 feet high. Okay. So this is the perspective that Sketchup gives you. It's able to render in this viewpoint. And what you see here is what Sketchup can render for you in terms of its capabilities to do perspective. Okay, that's it. From this viewpoint, if you want to analyze all the data we've put in, okay, and draw a comparison, and ignore the pictures in the background, all the little peaks that you've put in, that's what you've got to do it in SketchUp from a perspective point of view. Now you've put everything in physically. Now compare the two models. Now, what I did in Photoshop was just take a screenshot of that. Okay. And this is the reality of what you've got. Now I can zoom in, just like I can zoom in on the camera. And the camera lens is different. Think of this as digital zoom. So you've got your eyes, but all you've got is digital zoom. And that's what we've got here. Okay. So that's what really we've got to analyze if we're going to use Google SketchUp and apply its perspective tools to analyze. We take a screenshot from the distance and analyze that. That's worth.
Adam, just gonna interrupt to go. This is the globe model you're on now, right? The correct radius.
Yes. Let me.
While you're fiddling, I just want to say, because I can see what's coming. Ooh.
That's all that's worth analyzing. Yeah. There's the flat model remember this is from a different angle, so it's slightly different, but to be honest, in terms of the perspective on this computer simulation, that's the reality of what they're showing. But that's all that you've got to analyze in comparison to the photo that we've talked about. So that's the point I want to make with regards to this next bit, which is in regards to his photo, what he does. You see what I said this little bit earlier, where this is where he places his man. But this, where he places his man, is not where he's got this image from. This image is significantly... Can you see how Blackpool Tower is bigger here? I'll demonstrate the extremities of this in a minute. But what you'll be able to see is all the imaging he's using from Google SketchUp to validate all his presuppositions with regards to what this crap means with a picture placed behind real 3D rendering. But all of this is let me get a decent picture. You can see the picture breaking through here where the program's struggling a bit. You can see where the picture's placed. Now, he's moved it forwards. Okay. Now, that means the imaging for Google SketchUp is now imaging it as if you're stood at this point. Okay. Not where you were before. And it does take some perspective into account. But to use that as your comparative to the final height of the things has no validity because it's not taken from that image. That's the image you get from the correct distance on Google SketchUp, yeah? So in all of the images he uses, it's false and misrepresented. This one's a great one. Look how close he is to Blackpool Tower in the 3D image. Where's Blackpool Tower in the photo that he's comparing these towers of these mountains, red, blue, green? They're also behind him. Yeah, this is the most ridiculous comparison. And also look how the computer's struggling because it can see the image here of the photo and it's rendering it and showing you how much of this photo is subverting under the flat plane that the computer's rendering. Yeah, it's just the whole thing is farcical in terms of what he then goes on to validate, like I said, with all his comparisons here. They have no validity. And not only, as I hope I've demonstrated in the way he's placed them significantly, he's not done it with respect to his presupposed ball Earth correctly. But it's littered with so many other errors. Hopefully in the middle, as you understand, fundamentally to be able to then put a picture on and pretend that gives you a point of comparison. It's beyond retarded and shows how much they're grasping at straws. And hopefully some of the geeky bits, as Brian alluded to, just demonstrates how they'll sneak a bit here, sneak a bit there, yeah? But fundamentally, and I'll go back to SketchUp, you know, as I did show you, all of this is based on a lie. They stole 80 meters, over 200 feet, to validate their supposed ball Earth, which is objective reality. And that's the reality. Whenever we look at any of their nonsense claims with any detail, look at the way it falls apart. Thanks. I'll stop. I'll leave it.
Adam, he didn't just so everyone knows. Now, first of all, I'm going to say thanks very much for doing this. I knew you were the man for the job, and you did a fantastic job, as I knew you would. But that guy didn't just take that 80 meters. He also used angular size changes, the angular size of the mountains across the flat plane. He didn't take away, what he didn't do is he didn't take away the hidden value that would be there on his globe and do the angular size correction then on what would still be visible above his geometric horizon. He didn't do that. He used angular size, the angular size of the basic flat Earth angular size is the only one you can have if you're going to use an angular calculation. And then he messed around with the ground underneath. That's what he did, basically. So that when he added in his 7/6 refraction, that would bring back up the ground just the right amount. So his mountain pieces would match the observation. And all he did was at the front of each one, he wrote a radius. So he gave his the 3959 in kilometers, and then he gave a 7,500 kilometer one radius for the 7/6 version. The whole lot was fraudulent from the start. His whole get up from his whole starting position, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was being fraudulent. He did what he did on purpose. And he cut corners and shaved off as much as he needed to shave off to make sure that when he added in his 7/6 that it matched perfectly, and or as perfect as he could get it. And that's what the guy did. He is, and I've known this for a long time about him, an unbelievable fraud. I'll leave Nathan say something. I still have some stuff to show myself, some comments from him that will cement that. Nathan, I leave you and the rest of the lads go ahead.
Did you need me to present them on Skype or something?
Well, I'd have to present my own screen here.
Okay, yeah, well, great, even easier. Yeah. Great.
Well, it's just if Adam is finished, will I present my own screen?
Yeah, if you just present, you just have to stop sharing.
I'm all done. If you've got any questions later, I can pull the model up for anyone. So.
Or just leave it on. Okay. Just you don't have to stop sharing if you have anyway. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay,
just
one second.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready.
Okay. I should be sharing my screen now in a moment.
Indeedy weedy.
Okay. So you should be seeing YouTube now. I'm just going to make it bigger here.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. So this is what he did. I just want to show what he did. But so this is what he did. He lined up next to the tower the angular sizes of the mountains on a flat plane. But this is the angular size of all these mountains in the background, right, on a flat plane without any perspective added in. So you just put them next to the tower. And what he did, I won't play his video in case there's any nonsense, but what he did is he just brought the camera closer to the tower, which gives a similar effect to what would happen if he brought the tower, all the pieces back, right? But then he went over to the left side here. He didn't even keep doing what he was doing. He just went off. This is only a couple of seconds of the video. He went over to here to talk about some nonsense over here on the left, instead of sticking with this. As you can see, what's happening is he's coming closer to the tower. The tower is rising, and the mountains are appearing, the angular size of the mountains is appearing to drop. Whereas if we go back to here, right, if he brought those angular size representations of the mountains, if he brought them back the way in his program, instead of bringing the camera closer to the tower, what would happen? This would happen, the same exact thing, except for we'd be seeing it from a distance back. And he didn't want to show this, because this is the effect of visual occultation. It's due to your angle of view. The tower is way above the observer's height, and it's closer to the observer. So the observer is not going to see the top of those mountains over the top of that tower, because the observer's angle, as I've shown before with demonstration, the observer's angle is way up into the sky. The mountains would have to be 30 or 40 miles high for the view to be able to see the top of them behind the tower at that distance away. But this is what he's done. He's tried to hide. So even by bringing his camera closer to the tower, he's still getting the same effect. So what does he do? He goes off over to the left and forgets the whole lot. And then he basically says at that point, well, this is all, this doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. He basically says goodbye to it and straight onto his model, right? Straight onto his globe model. Now we have here, this is S.A.F.E here, right? Right. This should be, if I can see my cursor, this should be about here. Right. This should be about here. This is where that should be, because it's less than half the height of the tower. The tower is I think it's 0.0473 something or 37 something, and Delfell is 0.02 25 or something like that. So it's less than half the height of the tower. And so this Delfell here, the one that's supposed to be representing Delfell on the globe Earth, that should be less than half the height of the tower. So on the screen here, on my full screen, he should be able to take away like a couple of centimeters or millimeters, off of that. Should be down here, but it's not. It's up here because he never done angular side. He never done the hidden value for the mountains on his globe, and then use the available still visible above his geometrical writing that he doesn't have. Above that, he didn't do the angular size change on that part. He didn't do any of that. What he did is he messed around with the surface underneath to bring these down to the height he needs them to be, so that when he went to where is it? Up here. Yeah. So when he went to his 7/6R version, they all matched almost perfect. No, I don't know which one he was. If it's the red one or the green one, he was seeing it Delfell. But it doesn't really matter, because if it's the red one, it's even worse, because it should be way down here where his eye is, where this eye thing is. It should be down here. That's where Delfell should be. So when he adds in his 7/6R, it all comes up perfect. It's completely fraudulent. Didn't do anything correct. He did everything incorrect and knew what he was doing. Now I'm going to show some comments, right? Now he has 2 comments down here. I haven't read it all, right? That he sent to me. I didn't read it all. So the last 2 comments I haven't read. This here is just me basically giving him stick about it. I'll just read out his comment, because he addresses what I kind of basically put in there. I basically just say that basically you might fool your naive subscribers, but I got you pegged, pal? ? Things like that. Is like I pointed out where he was being completely fraudulent, and he comes in with, your standard refraction is based on R, which is what I said to him. No, it isn't. Refraction is a known and measured phenomenon. Are glasses and lenses based on the globe? ? So straight away he was denying that his standard refraction had any R basis whatsoever. And I put in, as part of my other comment, is, but this photo debunks R. I was speaking about on the left side of it, when he shows the full photograph on the left side, something that we weren't seeing in that video. It shows that it's a black-bowed swan, right? No, it doesn't. First of all, J. Tolan Media is known for lying, because I shared a video with him where I used some imagery from J. Tolan Media to prove my point, and no one has been able to come back at me over this. I've completely destroyed their claims using J. Tolan Media's footage, and all the heights and everything that are there in his footage that anyone can verify. You can verify it with Google Earth. And so this guy, first thing he has to do is attack J. Tolan Media. And the reason he's doing that is because he didn't watch the video I shared with him, the video I made. He never watched it, right? His observations are debunked over and over and over again, blah, blah, blah. When you show perspective, please define perspective. I asked him, when you show us perspective, please define perspective. I really don't think your version of perspective is the same as mine. So please put some numbers to it. So basically he's trying to mathematicalize perspective. Right, so I'm not going to read too much, but basically it's like I read it more. And your globe heights were all wrong, which is what I said concerning his Delfell and all that. Then please show me the right ones. It's like it's back on me to show him the right ones. It's like it's not my job to show you the right way to do your modeling. You have to doing a model. You've made claims about it, and now it's been pointed out that's wrong. And you're saying, "Well, show me the ones you have." It's like, no, you know the right ones, but you've done it incorrectly on purpose. You're calling optical drop error curve. These are the things I've said to him. Please define optical drop. How does it work? What's the mechanics behind it? How do I calculate for that in my models? So it all comes back to, how do I use maths to mess around with things? It's back to that again. It's like, how do I use as much maths as possible? How do I calculate for perspective and use as much maths as possible to mess around with the models, so I can make sure that the model I don't want to have work doesn't work, and the model I do want to have work does work. And this is all based on what I said. I said, now stop making claims based on R, as you don't have R. The Earth's radius has been measured a lot of times, he says. Right? Why do you guys keep on denying that? And I have in also he also just taken from what I said and hijacking perspective. My version of perspective is that objects get smaller with distance. What's your version? Right? This is the answers I'm getting off.
Hold on.
Yeah.
The point that I put my ears up is where he says that it's been measured. Okay. That was going to be the thing that I potentially round out on. So if anybody wants to pipe up, they need to make that known. But yeah, where did he get R? Where did he get R? That's
well, yeah. This is the thing, you see. Like this whole comment from him is a defensive comment where he is doing his best to put as much work back on me to explain stuff to him, as opposed to him admitting that he's been fraudulent.
Before we get to R, just to back up what you started reading what you were saying there, Brian. If you could just screen share for me 1 second, Nathan. It's only a quickie. It's to go back to when all this started, which was dealing with Ruhif. We've talked about sticking pictures on stuff, and all of this ignores perspective and all the model that I've just gone through. At no point does any of the mathematics in the placement, when it tries to ascribe anything to a photograph, take into account angular size change at distance. And if you're going to try and build a model of analyzing a photograph, that seems imperative, because the photograph is how you view things. So if you're going to interpret anything mathematically, it has to be how you interpret what you're viewing. I know that might sound sarcastic, but that's kind of what isn't being proposed in that previous model. So just look, it's there. I won't go through the data, but the point is none of that's there. So all of those peaks can have their size calculated, have it reduced based on the size from the observer for you to then try and model. That isn't what was done today. It was just, hopefully what you've seen, what we went through. A very weak attempt at trying to line up an angle of a perspective shot on a computer screen to then try and purport that angle that you've achieved from a distance that isn't what you're claiming it from in a 3D model, to line that up with a photograph to claim, look, that proves it's a ball earth. It's beyond farcical, really, what we have to deal with, but hopefully people can see that we can see through their lies. And I think most importantly, that the bit that Brian got, the sniff that made Brian say, oh, I'd have a look at this. There's a lie in there. And that they've even had to lie about their own R value and their own rate of curve and give themselves another 80 meters, 200 odd foot. Joke.
Okay, but their bastardized R value is based on an original R value. So that brings us nicely back to, where did he get it? In his comments to Brian, he specifically said it's been measured many times. Okay? I'd like that. The guy's been pretty forthcoming with you, Adam. So I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to message him. He'll probably get his name in the title and a link to his video. So I'd like to know where you got the R value. Perfectly reasonable, given that you're saying, well, obviously we've got it measured many times. Okay? I'd like 2. Please?
Well, can I just share my screen again there? And I'm just going to just read out my comment. And he has another comment came in after that as a response to mine. I asked him that question. So let's see what he actually said, because I didn't read his comment. So Adam, if I just share my screen. Okay, I should be sharing now. Okay. So I'm not going to read out the rest of his comment here. Anyone who was looking at this can see that, right? I'm going to read out my comment to him, right? And then we'll see his response. So Tommy Grunfeld, refraction is real, Tommy Lawyer, I call him, right? But your standard / terrestrial refraction is not. It's a calculated thing based on R and silly beliefs. The Blackpool photo debunks R, but Jay Tolan also debunks R, now that you say it, LOL. And you can't call anyone a fraud as you are a fraud, my friend, right? As you are a fraud, my friend, because he was calling Jay Tolan a fraud, right? Because he needed to try and character assassinate Jay Tolan as an excuse to not look at the video, right? Because they need to character assassinate Jay Tolan, but because he was showing things they don't want people to see. Perspective is not maths, dude, right? It's like, give me the mathematics for this, give me the calculations for that. Perspective is not maths. It's visual effects. It's not maths, it's visual effects. And them looking for math, the likes of him looking for maths for it is purely so he can mess around. Because we already saw what he does with maths. So why would you want to give him maths? So I have to fix your video for you because you're not capable of being honest. This is what I say to him. Okay then. Belfell is less than half the angular size of Blackpool Tower on your globe. Yet that is not what you show, ? You just take their observed size and claim globe without the adding of visual occultation, which is something that you obviously ignore. And even when it's shared with you, you refuse to see it. I wonder why, ? And what I mean by that is that I shared a video with him that he didn't watch. He made a point of not watching it. He just said Jay Tolan's bad, is a bad guy. So, right? So without saying he's not watching it, he just said Jay Tolan's a bad guy. And he continues on, obviously, pretending that my video that I sent to him doesn't exist. So optical drop is another thing that was shared with you within those videos that I shared with you that you have chosen to ignore. The things lawyers ignore, Tommy, right? ? Please give me all the details of the measurement of this R value you're claiming. I want to know all the steps and processes that went into this, along with who measured it, where they measured it, and when they measured it, ? How do you add perspective to a 3D model, ? I don't know, Tommy, but because he asked me, how do I add perspective to a 3D model? That's why he asked me in his comment up above. I don't know, Tommy, and in capital letters, but you definitely claimed that you had in your video, right, ? All you did was align up all the angular sizes next to the tower and then brought your camera closer when you should have what you should have done is brought the mountains back. Visual occultation, Tommy. You might fool your subscribers, but I see straight through you and have done since the moment you turned up on the scene, which is true. The angular sizes are across a flatter, Tommy, angles, 3 straight lines. You are supposed to take the remaining visible after you're hidden and then do angular size on that at the distance, not the dirt and wizardry you did, Tommy. You're one of these guys who won't look at anything that debunks your model. You will just say things like Jay Tolan is a bad guy, so that means I don't have to look at the video. Pathetic. You are a lawyer and you're a fraud and a lawyer, and you're such an idiot that you think refraction debunks the black swan. If the horizon is refracted, then it's not geometric, is it? SMH, because he said in his comment up here that refraction debunks the black swan. So this is his. I haven't read this, but I only read the first line of this, but I haven't. This is his response to that. Brian's logic. Wow. Still, with the refraction is based on the Earth radius of the Earth. How does that work for glasses and lenses? So he's still denying that 7/6R has anything to do with the R value. Refraction is known. People know how it works. And in every single model I make of different observation, it fits perfectly, right? He's adding in 7/6R all the time. Of course it fits. It's mathematical. Now, if the Earth was to be flat, refraction has to be about 8 times more than known and in the opposite way of reality. Sorry to say it, but you're just wrong. Perspective is not maths, dude. Oh, it isn't. ? And here I was thinking of that formula used to calculate the angular size of objects according to distance. Oh, well, you definitely claim that angular size is only one part of perspective. It's like we're talking about visual effects. Angular size is just one part of perspective. And it's an angular size of something. You definitely claim that you had in your video. This is me stating that he had claimed that he had added perspective in his video. Nope, I said it's already in the model, right? It's a 3D model and includes what's known as perspective. Yeah, so he's making a claim that he has perspective within his video. He's making the claim. He made the claim audibly that he added in perspective. Yeah, that is not what you show. They always seem to do this. They always, all these ballers, whatever it is about them, they keep on taking what you say and then copying and pasting it in to the comment to you as if you don't remember what you said. It's like, just give me a response. All the distances and heights are 1-to-1 scale. It's all there in all its glory. All the measurements are from Ruhif's video, all real, right? Ruhif's video. You just take their observed size and claim globe without the adding of visual occultation. This is what I said to him. And he goes back with, oh dear, here it comes. I guess someone have seen too much of flat side. He didn't even know, he doesn't know what visual occultation is, right? Well, he does know, or he doesn't know. Either way, he has to know. He knows what the effect is without the name. He doesn't know what the name means. He doesn't know what the name is attached to. But he avoided showing the effect, as I showed in his flat out model. He avoided showing it. Optical drop is another thing that was shared with you, and you have chosen to ignore. That's what I said to him. Quantify it. Put numbers to it. Define it. You can't just throw words around, right? So it's avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. Point everywhere. Flat side, the bad guy. J total media is a bad guy. Please give me all the details of the measurement of this R value claim. Sure. And right, this is his link. I'll open it up. It's a Wikipedia. Right. This is his claim of the R value. Right. Whatever is going on in here. Right. Whatever it seems to be, I don't know what it is. I haven't seen this before. But this seems to be some measurement that he claims is some kind of a globe or value measurement.
Looks like sticks in the ground.
Yeah, has that look about it to me. See what Etsy says. He keeps on doing this. So all you did was align up the angular sizes next to the tower. That's what I said to him. No, I had all the real measurements from the observation and placed every object accordingly, right? Visual occultation, Tommy. You asked for this and that from me. Where's your proof of this? Please show me where anything covers objects taller than you, right? I sent the guy a video. Like, I've sent him 2 videos. What more does he want? I'm sending him what he needs. So this is all avoidance, 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 right? You are supposed to take the remaining visible after you're hidden, not in 3D models. This is what he says. Not in 3D models. Here, it's just a simple comparison between flat and curved, done and dusted. So he's denying that he should take the hidden amount of his globe away and use just the remaining visible to do angular size on. He's denying that. Not the dirt and wizardry you did, Tommy, right? Wizardry, right? Ha, he says, wizardry. That's so cute again. I just put the objects in the observation where they belong. The curve did the rest. He's given himself away. You know, he's given himself away. You're one of those guys who look at anything that debunks your who won't look at anything that debunks your models. Have a good long look in the mirror. Right? Like, this is to me, right? Right. So it's back to me again. Projection, right? You think refraction debunks the black swan, right? Right. And that's what I said to him. And he says, so the crooked cranes are supposed to look like that? Question mark. And what about the photos from the other days with the horizon in front? Ever had a look at those? Where the cranes are nice and straight as they are supposed to be. That's how it appears with standard refraction without distortions. So there you go. That's how it appears with standard refraction without distortions. And that's supposed what he's alluding to there is that fits his model. But he's up at the top claiming, and in his other comment, claiming that standard refraction has nothing to do with his R value. Yet he's literally stating here, in as many words, that it is. If the horizon is refracted, then it's not geometric, is it? Right? He puts in ITW. I don't know what that means. So you think there is no way to measure the radius of sphere without using the horizon? Right. Wow. So no details, just a Wikipedia link to some nonsense.
Okay. Let's have a look at that nonsense. Can you read it for me, please? It's way too small for me to read off the screen. Can you read it, please?
Struve geodetic arc. Right. I'll read it. Do you want me to make it a little bit bigger? See if I can make it bigger. How is that? Can you see it on screen?
Too big.
Okay, I'll bring it. How about that?
Left a bit. Pretty good. It'll do.
Yeah. Okay. The Struve geodetic arc is a chain of survey triangulation stretching from Hammerfest in Norway to the Black Sea.
Hold on. Stop. Yeah. Stop. Sorry, did you say triangulation?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to require a flat plane.
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
Okay. Triangulation stretching from Hammerfest in Norway to the Black Sea through 10 countries and over 2,820 kilometers, which yielded the first the first accurate measurement of a meridian arc, right? The chain was established and used by the German-born Russian scientist Friedrich Georg Wilhelm von Struve in the years 1816 to 1855 to establish the exact size and shape of the Earth, right? At the time, the chain passed merely through three countries: Norway, Sweden, and the Russian Empire. The arc's first point is located in Tartu Observatory in Estonia, where Struve conducted most of his research. In 2005, the chain was inscribed on the World Heritage List as a memorable ensemble of the chain made up of 34 commemorative plaques or built obelisks out of the original 265 main station points, which are marked by drilled holes in rock, iron crosses, cairns, others. Measurement of the triangulation chain comprises 258 main triangles and 265 geodetic vertices. The northernmost point is located near Hammerfest in Norway, and the southernmost point near the Black Sea in Ukraine. This inscription is located in 10 countries, the second most of any UNESCO World Heritage after the ancient primeval beech forest of the Carpathians, and other regions of Europe. Right, I'm just going to have to make it a bit back to normal size a second. So these are all the links to all these places and things that they supposedly took place.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did I miss the part when they explained how they measured radius? Am I missing something?
No, they haven't explained anything. What they've actually done, if I'm just going to get it open this here, what it seems like they've actually done, if you look at this meridian, is they've done a north to south triangulation, which is basically what I can see. It seems to be along a longitude line, and the distance along the longitude lines, flat or curved, is the same. So whatever nonsense they've done here, they haven't shown anything about what they did. They've done triangulations. So, like, what tools could they have used? They could only have used the normal surveying tools, and they only deal with horizontals and verticals. So all they could have done is use those tools and then added in globe afterwards, mathematically, as they tend to do.
Well, it doesn't say. Does it not give a method? Does it not explain how they actually did it? Because it doesn't. I mean, I
don't see anything here. If you want, I'll share the link with you, and you can have a look into it. But I don't see anything. I don't see anything here that talks about a method. It's just triangulations.
Triangulation means that they did it on a flat plane. Triangulating what?
It assumes a flat plane. Yeah, it has to assume it for your calculations to have any merit.
Okay, so far from this wiki entry, we've got triangulation in terms of the methodology. Okay, I heard something about a geodesic arc.
Yeah, a meridian arc. Yeah, I have it. I have it. I'm just going to open this link.
Sorry, is that to say that we are assuming the line on this map takes a presupposed curved path when they measure their triangulation, which requires the ground to be flat? Is that what they're saying? Yeah. We assume a meridian arc, therefore it's a meridian arc we're measuring when we do our flat plane triangulation. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, I have it here now. Meridian arc, right? In geodesy, a meridian arc is the curve, right? The curve between 2 points on the Earth's surface having the same longitude.
Stop. So it's already begging the question that it's got a curved surface. So when they measure their meridian arc, they're already measuring the assumption that it's the curved surface of a curved Earth then. So it's just a begging the question that involves flat plane triangulation. So we assume sphere and then measure flat, is what that wiki says. That ain't going to get you R. That's pathetic.
Yeah, and as I said, along the same longitude, right? This is what I'm saying. They're using the longitude line, because the longitude line, they can do all those triangulations, and the distance along the longitude line will always be the same, curved or flat, right? In their model, it's always the same, curved or flat. All you have to do then is add in their curved pre-assumption. Anyone else can go and do this and see that all the measurements are correct. All the triangulations, yeah, it's all measured correct. All the distances are correct, right? Using the longitude line. But then they add in their curve. So they can just add in, they can just pre-assume the curve. All they're doing is measuring triangulations along a longitude line. That's all they're doing. And you have to do triangulations across
but
the
I'll say it
plane.
one more time, Brian.
What?
That triangulation in and of itself proves that we're on a flat plane.
Yeah, that's the point, you see. Anyone else can do it and just pre-assume it was along with them. Go on, Adam, sorry.
What you're and you know this better than me, you're describing then that any curvature they're measuring is between A and B, and it's the same as A to B, B to C, or it varies at the rate of the longitudes based on that two-dimensional circle, which is what they measure. Put simply an AZ map, they measure and confirm on that. And then they just stick the drop value onto that, to their measurements. Is that what you're implying there?
Yeah, Adam. As you can see here, just show, if it comes up again, the longitude lines are the same. Like if you look, that's the thing about, look, you look at the Gleason's map or the AE map, the longitude lines never change. The distance along them are the same. Yeah. And that's based on navigation, celestial navigation, right? And it's based on Polaris, right, originally, right? But that doesn't change. So anyone can do what they did and get the same distance measurements and then just add in the drop value. Because that's all that's happening there.
Right. So that's cool. Now, to do this via triangulation, you can't do it on that ball that they've just put up there. Okay. Because nothing will triangulate because you haven't got a zero angle, a flat surface to work from. To
Boom!
Start your base assumption from.
Boom! Precisely. They need to assume it's flat first, to then assume it's a sphere.
But assume it's flat first, take the measurements, calculate it on a flat plane to place it where it is, and then transpose it onto a ball.
I didn't know Wiki had this cluster screw, but most people wouldn't not only recognise that when reading between the lines there's very few lines to read between in terms of the description of how it's acquiring an R value, but further to that, recognising the begging the question fallacy when they describe the meridian arc, and further to that, know that you're going to need a flat plane in order to triangulate anything, ever. But at a cursory glance you might go, oh right, well, they just measure the meridian arc, obviously. That means they're measuring the sphere Earth that we presuppose. No one's going to think that. So at a glance, this probably is good enough to that Muppet. This doesn't give you R.
One of the greatest things, pre-flat Earth again, one of the things that I used to look at, and go, wow, that was brilliant, what an amazing thing, was the triangulation of India back in the days of Queen Victoria. Yeah. Now they did this two ways. They took their distances with chains. Yeah. So to get a straight line over a distance, because like as Gerrans tried with string and that, this stuff breaks over distance. It's tensile strength. So the only way they could do it is a chain. Yeah. But again, to measure the whole of the subcontinent of India, there was one presupposition to accurately map that thing via triangulation. It's the most beautiful thing. You can see the triangles they draw. It's just amazing. The whole of the subcontinent, all of it, to accurately place everything relative to each other, which is true and correct to reality, was based that the baseline they drew it on was flat and even, as the maps and the triangulation show. Right.
Well, just two links I've taken from this here, because this is just a load of begging the question, but this geodetic astronomy, right? Because they say here in this meridian arc link, the latest determinations use astrogeodetic measurements, right? So geodetic astronomy, Geodetic astronomy or astronomical geodesy, astrogeodesy is the application of astronomical methods into geodetic networks and other technical projects of geodesy. So they're hijacking perspective, basically. With that, they have to be, because as the sextant shows that it's not possible, that it's only perspective. Sextant proves it's only perspective. All this stuff where people think the star is going down towards the horizon and likely to go behind it. It's not. It's just only perspective. It's the angular size of the space between the star and the angular free space between the star and your local horizon. That changes with distance. So that free space just gets smaller with distance, and eventually it gets to a point where you can't determine the free space from the star or the horizon. It just ends up. That's what an horizon is. It's a visual effect. So that's all it is. So geodetic astronomy is they're bringing in astronomy to prove their globe somehow, or this is what they're trying to claim they're doing here. Then you have arc measurements. Arc measurements, sometimes degree measurements, is the astrogeodetic determination of the local radius of curvature of the figure of the Earth by determining the difference in astronomical latitude and longitude between two locations. The arc length between which is known. The most common instances, meridian arc measurements involved only astronomical latitude and the meridian arc length along although longitude, parallel, and oblique arc measurements are also possible.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. No. See, just say that again. The arc length is known. Now, yeah, we can measure a distance between A and B, but that doesn't determine anything other than the distance between A and B. It has no relationship to the ball you're on until you have R. And then that defines the rate at which that distance bends, which then positions it in a geodetic way. Yeah. That is a naughty statement there. Yeah. Because to know the arc length means you already know R.
Yeah. Exactly.
But they've already got R by way of assumption because they already know the arc length.
Well, if you look at this this picture here I got from that link, it's from a Jules Verne book, and this here is like an astrolabe or something like that, which is basically like a sextant. So this is what they're using for whatever surveying they seem to be doing or whatever. So basically, it works very similar to a sextant. The astrolabe, it's something like that. But basically, they're showing here how they have to use angles. There has to be a flat baseline with the use of something like this. There has to be. So,
Got to be flat. Measuring tools require it to be so. And that is how it's being measured. That's how it's being utilized. That's how we experience the world. You know, to state that the Earth is flat is so far removed from being an extraordinary claim, it's untrue. Because it is precisely how we deal with the world. And then they've just got nothing but a globe apologetic process that takes place thereafter and weasels in an assumption of an R value that's already known to then take measurements and reference them back to an already assumed spherical surface beneath your feet that you don't experience in any way. You know, this was a pretty weak attempt to justify having an R value. And when you dig in 2 links deep, you find that they've already assumed it. What a shock.
Yeah, and even the photograph on screen here, that's part of this Struve arc thing. They're basically, it's like a monument where they're worshipping. You know, it's a monument that you can worship if you choose.
Looks like a palace to me.
Yeah. You can choose to worship this big heap of nonsense here. As some kind of proof of Earth measurement. You know, a correct Earth measurement. That's what it seems to me.
We can worship this phallic thing, can we? That's nice.
Yeah, that seems to be what they're giving us the allowance to do. It's right there. Anyone can go and take a photograph and stand next to it or whatever you want to do. And it is an icon to the globe Earth and the measurements of the globe Earth, or that's what they want you to believe.
Yeah, this is smoke and mirrors. You know, dazzle you with these monuments, give you a little story that's 2 links deep to find out that you've just assumed a spherical surface to begin with. You know, this is all smoke and mirrors.
Those little lines on the patio that stretch out, that obviously go to the geographic positions, do they continue so you can measure it, or do they end at the... But they don't even get into the red brick. They stop at the grey brick, look. It's just a claim. They've just stuck something in the middle of what looks like an industrial estate and said, yeah, look, we'll draw these lines on. This proves we've calculated this, and therefore, because we've done that, look, it's a ball. Proves it. We've even put a bit of shale around it, a bit of extra paving, and then grass the extra area. Why would we do that if it weren't a ball?
Yeah, why would they build this monument if it wasn't a ball?
Proves it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, why would they go to the bother of building this monument if it wasn't a ball? Like, this is quite an expensive thing to do. So, and there's all this writing on it. There's some Latin on it. So why would they be doing all that if it wasn't a ball?
Do you want to know why? I know you're asking a rhetorical question, but I'll answer it anyway. Because most people are surface level researchers at best, if they even suspect anything. In other words, this facade is enough for 99% of people. And for the other 0.5% of people, they'll scratch the surface in the wiki entry, and it's 2 links deep before you find out that beg the question. So for, you know, I don't know, 999 out of 1,000 people, this is more than adequate. In fact, it's
on it, Nathan.
It's overkill, if anything.
You just showed how a baller can prove it to themselves. As you scroll down the shaft, it gives a few details, longitude and latitude. And if you wanted to prove that it was a ball, what you could do is go to that position and see the things they've engraved there. Look, the latitude. You could check that, and if the two confirmed, then it would show and clearly prove it's a ball, because you went there and the latitude matches the place you stood. So clearly it's a ball.
Yeah, that would be exactly where you stand. That exact latitude would match exactly where you'd be standing there.
I feel
so how would they know that if it wasn't a ball?
It says it on the shaft. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It says it right there. I can feel myself just contemplating this. It makes me feel dumber. It does.
Well, it's a big grand show. That's what they put on for you. A big grand show, isn't it? That's what they always put on for you. There's no details. Go on, Adam. Sorry.
I was going to say, as with any tattoo, if you're going to have it engraved, even if you're going to have one put on your shaft, make yourself look more intelligent by engraving it in Latin. Don't write it in the language we all speak in. Make it sound really intelligent. You know.
What, you're saying if this shaft had it done in Sanskrit or something, it would be even more cryptic and therefore more believable?
Well, what I mean is the opposite. If they wrote Dave was here, Google Earth this, it wouldn't have the credibility of that, which makes it give superficial intelligence and academia to it. That's why it's in Latin.
Okay.
The ancients put it here. The Greeks came and did it. That's why it's in Latin.
Sorry, what are you invalidating now? The Dead Sea Scrolls or this shaft?
Well, I mean, it might be in Spanish. I could be talking nonsense, but it could just be in a foreign language. But the thing, if you're ever going to inscribe anything upon your shaft, then it must be validatably true, demonstrably true, and that's the point I'm making. That they try to, they've put up this phallus and they've put these coordinates on, which I'm sure are validatable. They're probably the coordinates of that phallus, yeah. But there's no way that is in any way approved. But like you say, that superficial look, it just helps reaffirm things, doesn't it? It doesn't prove anything. Someone else believed it as well and put a statue there.
it does lend a little bit more credence to the whole Dick Earth thing that was around about 3 or 4 years ago. And, you know, they would obviously lend credence to their model by looking at this. And they'd say words to the effect of, well, if it's written on a giant dick, how can you argue?
But that's why I raised it and said the word phallus initially. Because, you know, we've highlighted these things. The elite have a very clever way of putting all of their lies onto a penis. Whether it's Jeff Bezos and his, or was it Virgin and his feather-shaped phallus, or this. It's just synchronicity, I suppose. Sometimes it's odd that you get to this, and we went through all the facts, and then the thing that proves it is a giant penis in an industrial estate.
You know, I think it's hilarious because this big elaborate thing here with marble and all this Latin inscription and all the rest of it, and you have this thing here with the shields and these faces, and then you have the globe up on top. It all looks fantastic, right? And this, right, but in the background is reality. Reality is a grey day in some kind of half industrial park, half kind of housing estate, council housing estate on a hill.
Welcome to Sheffield.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to round up. Anyone want the last word? Because I'm going to round out on that note.
No, I'm done.
Perfect.
No, just thanks to Adam for doing all this. This is very good. Thanks, Adam.
Well, indeed, I'm going to say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to both Adam and Brian for making this, whatever we're going to call it, a special, I suppose, possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!